Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, the 26th of March. Uh, I want to talk about why people are so absolutely desperate. I mean, desperate at the moment to disprove the existence of their own divinity. Why are people falsifying what it says in the New Testament? Why are people not discussing what it actually says in the New Testament? I'm not saying believe it, but we are saying we prove or disprove what it says in the New Testament. We're not even talking about it. We're not even talking about what it says. We're talking about other stuff. We're diverting from the point and we're talking about other stuff. We're not discussing what it says. It talks about our divinity. And at no point are we talking about that. And it gives examples, and we're not talking about the examples. Now, first thing people say, we must unindoctrinate, get out of the Roman fear control matrix. Absolutely you must. Absolutely you must. That is the first step. Without that you're going nowhere. So, but then what is the Roman fear control blood matrix? What did Rome do that you must get out of? Okay, what Rome did was very, very simple. They took a spiritual text and made it into a religion, which are two very different things. Spiritual text says truth is within you. It's within any human being at any time, in any place. Actually, maybe within any being that has reached the level of man. Anytime, any place. That is spiritual knowledge. Rome says Jesus was the only true begotten Son of the Lord, of the only God, and he can do all these things and you can do nothing because you are filled with sin, you've fallen away from the truth of God, you must now wait in your sinfulness to Jesus to come and do all these things for you. Yeah? That was the Roman lie, and that makes it into a religion because now you have to worship Jesus in order to get anything, or you must be back on your knees asking God, that biblical God, for anything and everything. You're back in slavery. You're back in being unable to do anything for yourself. That is the only shift that Rome performed in not writing the text. They didn't write the text. That's another lie. It's another diversion. It's Caesar's Messiah. Forget it. Rome didn't write the text. Rome distorted the message. I say, from a spiritual knowledge to a religion. She put them all back into the temple and have them worship a deity that is somewhere in a different realm. That is what you must get out of. That is the shift. So once you've done that, okay, say truth is, Jesus said the kingdom is within you and is all around you. Yeah, the truth is within you. Go back to that. And now let's look at what the text is saying. But then the next thing happens. Yeah? People go, is it historically accurate? Don't trust the Bible because it is not historically accurate. It's not a historical text. It doesn't actually matter. If you discuss whether what the Bible is true or not true, you shouldn't discuss historical accuracy because that is, again, you are beside the point. You're discussing something that is beside the point. Because, again, this text clearly says it's not tied to one person or to one place or to one time. It speaks about a truth that is within you. Yeah? Independent of time, place, or I don't know, ethnic, what you ethnically are or whatever. Again, you're veering away from the point. What you should actually prove or disprove is not historical accuracy. That is totally beside the point. Next thing that happens. People say stuff that the text absolutely is not saying. And here we're coming to complete falsification of what the text itself is saying. I know, I'm sorry, I'm coming back to what I said in my last video. If you have the text saying, and here is what it does say, and that there is no room for interpretation, yeah? It claims there was a man who was blind from birth, yeah? Jesus picked up dust, spat on the dust, made it into a paste, put it into the man's eye, and told the man to go and wash his eyes somewhere. He did it, and he could see. That is what the text says. Okay? That is what it says. The man then just went into the temple and created an uproar. The priests were starting to issue all sorts of threats because of what happened. There were witnesses there, family members of that man that testified that is what happened. The man, that he had been blind from birth, that he can now see, that a change had occurred. That is what the text says. Yeah? And then you have somebody coming saying, well, this actually talks about that the man was lying about his condition and Jesus could see right through his lies. The text says nothing like that. The text does not say that. Why are you saying it? Why are you saying that is what the text says when it clearly does not? And there is no room in that text that would allow that interpretation. It's just not what it says. So why are you saying it? And why are people so willing, and here again, so willing and so desperate to believe that other version? Why are they absolutely refusing to look at what the text says? It says Jesus picked up dust, put it in his eyes, and the man could see. That is what it says. Why are we not discussing that? Instead of finding ways around it. Why are we not discussing what the hell happened there? Another way of getting away from it is obviously it's a metaphor. It's an allegory. Somehow this is talking about the ego or something. I don't know. It's talking about something in another realm. Well, yeah, it is speaking about something in another realm. It's talking about consciousness and it's talking about faith, which is not in the physical. Yeah? But still, it says the whole book is about consciousness creating material reality. We are not discussing that. No, it's a metaphor. It's talking about egos and I don't know what. Why are we not looking at the text and discussing what it says? Prove it or disprove it. I'm not saying it's true. But if we're saying we're proving or disproving what the New Testament says, that is what we must prove or disprove. Yeah? Jesus is in a boat with his disciples. The boat is sinking. Jesus gets up and rebukes the storm. What the hell? What did he just do? Why are we not discussing what the text actually says? The text says Jesus rebuked the storm. Why are we not discussing that? It's some metaphor. The boat means something and the storm means something and it's... No. It is what it says. Why are we not discussing what it says? Roman fear control matrix. Jesus says, where is your faith? They should have had faith in Jesus. When they bloody well had. They woke him up because they knew he could do it. And he said, where is your faith? Where is your faith? Why did you not? What the hell are you getting me up for? Why didn't you not do it yourself? That is what the text is saying. Why are we not discussing this? Can a human being rebuke the storm? Can human consciousness create a shift in weather conditions? Why are we not discussing that? Why are we so busy to finding a way around it? What it actually says. The bodily resurrection, let me go there again. Again, people like that say they had Bible studies for thousands of hours. I studied, I taught others, I know what I'm saying about, talking about. And then they go, well, Jesus was resurrected and walking around in his dead Jesus body. No, that's after thousands of hours of study, could you not read what the text actually said? Yeah? What was it that you didn't understand after thousands of hours of study and teaching others? The text says he was in a different body. The body itself had changed. That is what it says. Why are we not discussing this? Jesus became like the Father in heaven. Why are we not discussing this? Jesus obeyed him. Jesus did according to him. Jesus thought according to him. And in the end, he had a body like him. That's what the book says. Why are we not discussing this? Why do we have to find some way around it? Oh, he did not, he was in his own, first of all, saying what it doesn't say. Yeah, he walked in his own dead body. No, he didn't. Or finding ways around again. Oh, this was a deception. They moved the body. Somebody else was crucified. Desperate to find a way that leads away from what the text is actually saying. What are we doing? Why are we not discussing what the text is saying? There was another part that came to my mind yesterday, which is actually far out, and I love this bit. It's actually a very, very small verse. But you really should sit there saying, what the is actually going on here? Yeah? And that is where Jesus is in the temple. That's in John 8, at the end of John 8. He's discussing stuff with them, yeah? He has them all fired up again, yeah? They're going up against him. They're picking up stones. There's an entire crowd there picking up stones, ready to stone him for blasphemy, yeah? And here says what it says happened. That is John 8, verse 59. Then they took up stones to cast at him, but Jesus hid himself and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. He's surrounded by a crowd. That's what the text says, okay? It's a metaphor for the ego. No, it's not. The text says there's a human being surrounded by a crowd with stones in their hand, all fired up, ready to kill him. And he says he hid himself. He hid himself from them. How? Standing in the middle of a crowd. Do you hide yourself from them? And then, when he just went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. How did he go through the midst of them? Yeah? He just started walking, and there's a whole crowd fired up ready to kill him, and when he started walking, they said, well, just make room for the guy and let him walk away. I guess we're not stoning him today. It doesn't make sense. How did he walk through the midst of them? Hid himself and walked through the midst of them. What happened there? Here's another thing. We can talk, the likes of David Icke can talk, and others can talk about interdimensional beings. They can talk about spaceships that somehow change frequency so that you can see them at one moment and not at another, because they have changed frequency, which means you can no longer see them on your frequency. Yeah, we can talk about that. We can talk about aliens doing it. We can talk about the entire ships doing it. There's a story that says a man did it. A man was surrounded by people, changed frequency, and walked through them. Oh, no. Roman fear control matrix. Occult, you go to hell. It's a metaphor for something else. It's whatever we can come up with, yeah? To say that is not what it says. That is what it says. He was stood in the midst of them and he hid himself. And he walked through them. Again, you are allowed to believe it of aliens, of entire spaceships. No problem with that. Believe. It's out there. Believe. A man did it. Oh, no. Let's find a way around it. That's not happening. No, that can't be truth. We're sinful. We're trapped in the body. Why are we so desperate to believe that? Why are we so desperate to believe that we are sinful and trapped in a body? There's another thing, obviously. He walked through them. That is the entire body shifted. Yeah, that is not the spirit fluttered out and walked through them. No, the entire bloody body went through it, shifted. That's what that says. Why are we not discussing what the New Testament says? To the point. I mean, really hitting the point of what it says. It says there were people 2,000 years ago, and not just Jesus. Again, that's the Roman lie. It was not just Jesus. There was an entire group of them. And in fact, that thing was spreading. People, it could be taught, and people could do it. And that thing was spreading. And they did all manner of what you might call supernatural things. Things that were beyond the material. That is what this book is claiming. Yeah? All manner of different things. Influencing weather, changing physical reality of the body, shift in frequency in that instance. All manners of things that they did. Why are we not discussing that? Why are we not discussing what it says? Why are we so bloody desperate to find a way around it? And I think a lot of people are a lot happier following those other explanations. Yeah? They don't want to go there. They absolutely do not want to go there. If somebody can explain that away, people are happy to follow them. Why? Why are we rejecting ourselves as spiritual beings with spiritual powers? Why are we rejecting the power of consciousness to create realities? The power within ourselves to create realities. Why are we rejecting that? I would say one of the main reasons is because you have not unindoctrinated. You're still in the Roman fear control matrix. Because if you claim to be spiritual, a consciousness, a powerful consciousness, if you claim to be that for yourself, they will crucify you. They will kill you. They will destroy you. And after that you will go to hell, obviously. You're still in that fear. You are still in the matrix. You're just not realizing it. You have not unindoctrinated. You're still fully in it and you're still fully controlled. If somebody can bring some other explanation for what that text is saying, and you're happily going there saying, oh, thank God for that. You know, I'm not a spiritual being. I'm not a great consciousness. It's okay. It's okay. I'm just dust. I'm just dust. That's fine. Because as long as I'm just dust, they will not come after you. You're still in the fear matrix. If that is what you're doing, you're still in the fear matrix. You haven't woken up. And you most certainly have not unindoctrinated at all. Truly unindoctrinating would mean, first of all, saying I am consciousness. There are things consciousness can do. Consciousness is an energy that can work things. There are several energies in me, emotional energies, thought, energies, consciousness as a whole, and that can work things. And I am that. And then start looking at that text and say, what is that text saying is possible to you? And then start discussing that. What is possible? How is it possible? Then you're starting to discuss what the book is actually saying. And you're not discussing something else that you would rather discuss than this one. You rather discuss the other because you're still in the fear matrix. So shall we truly unindoctrinate, and shall we truly discuss what the New Testament is saying about us and about what is possible? I'm not saying blindly believe. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's have a real discussion about what it says and is it possible. Start wondering about it. Start inquiring about it within ourselves, amongst each other. Yeah? But as I said, for some reason, humanity is desperate not to see it, not to discuss it. They don't want to know. And I'd say they don't want to know because they are still in the fear matrix. They haven't woken up. Anyway, folks, here, I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.